So, The Ancient Gods Part 2 came out. After months of getting small little snippets and details of new enemies and other enticing features. Despite it being heavily leaked, like the cover art, store page, and teaser trailer being leaked, all of those made me actually more excited for the DLC. I think we can all agree that the community reaction to The Ancient Gods Part 2 has been pretty shocking. A huge group of people being divided all because of the difficulty presented in the DLC. I myself also expected the DLC to follow up with the first DLC in terms of the difficulty and challenge Part 1 brought to players, but even if I found that fun, others didn't. While we may shout and praise the difficulty about Part 1, we're the loudest of them all, but only a few of us liked the challenge. Others that remained quiet due to being spoken over disliked the huge spike in difficulty brought within Part 1, and those make up the majority of Doom Eternal's player base. Originally, I was going to touch up about the decrease in difficulty and why I don't like it, but I, as well as other content creators, took a few steps back with that argument and realized the reality of the situation, causing an unjustified negative outlash to the developers. I'm lucky to only be able to do weekly uploads because of my job, so I could sit on this for a bit. The Ancient Gods Part 2 is solid. I think there's some great things within the DLC, but I also have some criticism against other things like the story, enemy placements, and even the final boss fight. But I'll be real with you. Getting a skin that nearly resembles Turok just for purchasing the DLC is pretty cool.
Your mission objectives are as follows. Rescue 4 children.
I am Turok!
But I'm gonna explain my thoughts and feelings about this DLC. What I dislike and like about it, and overall things I hope id Software would reconsider within the future in terms of making a story-focused Doom game. It's also worth mentioning that these are opinions, and that there's objective and subjective stuff within this video. If you enjoyed this DLC, then I'm happy for you, and you're entitled to your own opinion as well. Just don't be a jerk and start fighting with others about how you and someone else feel differently about this game. Hell, if you feel like arguing with people in a hostile way over the internet, I'm just gonna say this. Get laid, mate. I'm also going to be splitting this into chunks, so feel free to catch all of this in one go, or pick out the ones you care about the most. But anyways, let's get into this. It's a no-brainer that Doom in general doesn't focus all that much about the story. It's just background filler stuff for the gameplay that's happening. Doom 2016 represents that very well in the beginning, with the Doomslayer just smashing the monitor away saying screw your story, and having codex entries and Slayer testaments to tell the lore on the side if the player wishes to learn more. Doom Eternal is kinda the opposite. It brings out the story more with the third-person cutscenes, having the player take a backseat as the Doomslayer and whoever is next to him explain what's going on, sorta distancing the player from the Slayer. Not only that, but with the vast new environments the Slayer explores as the journeys towards Urdak explain his past and the history of the Night Sentinels that stumbled upon him. In the Ancient Gods, we see the Slayer finding the Seraphim, which so happens to be Samuel Hayden, retrieve the Father's life sphere and destroying it, and then bring the Dark Lord to life, just to kick his ass for all the suffering that's been caused. Cause it's a video game and you control the Slayer, you do kill the Dark Lord in a badass fashion.
Tell me, have you nothing to say to your creator before you strike him down?
Чики-брики!
Ты пидорасов, сука, блядь!
That's probably the only good thing I really liked in this entire DLC besides the endgame sequence in the middle of the DLC.
Wait a minute!
But with the story, everything just feels rushed. The betrayer is a Force ghost, but comes back alive. Does that mean King Novik is alive too? The father saying he's the one for killing a few demons, despite watching him single-handedly stop the invasion on Earth by killing the Icon of Sin, as well as the Khan Maker. As much as I like dragons, a Sentinel dragon with a Doomslayer riding it felt like they jumped the shark on this one. What I mean by that is the sudden transition from Doom being this horror-styled sci-fi shooter into this fantasy-like 40k Warhammer game with the brand Doom attached to it. The intern, after being all buttered up with personality and great character development, gets tossed on the side to add context to what you gotta do next. You make it to Amora to besiege Hell's Gates. Okay, id Software acknowledging the yeet hook is actually pretty fucking sweet. And then we get to what the DLC has been building up for, the fight against the Dark Lord. One thing I noticed that the Slayer lacked a lot of is the self-authorientin he expressed beautifully in 2016 by bashing the elevator's comms, destroying the pure Argent energy while being told to be careful. In Eternal, he kneels in front of this guy that tells you to rip and tear and that you'll be mankind's savior, but in that cutscene tells you you cannot kill the Hell Priests and that the humans are no longer his people to save. With the Dark Lord, he goes on a bit of a spiel about why the Slayer is wrong and this and that, while the Slayer has his back facing towards him, waiting for him to shut up already. He kicks his ass and then has his moment. He kills the Dark Lord and slowly loses consciousness. And then Doomguy is sealed away in the same coffin he emerged from in 2016, waiting in silence until Doom emerges so he may serve the gods once again. It's no surprise that the endings in Doom have an open ending, portraying the end of the game's story and progress. And I like that. I think it's crazy how an average Joe like Doomguy gets turned into a slayer who defies the gods and kills any demon he comes across, but then is resealed after everything is done, waiting until he's needed again. It's like a curse for him, and I think the ending portrays it very well for the Slayer. It also fits with the theme of the game. Doom is eternal, not just for life in general, but for the Doomslayer. I like the ending. However, many things about Doom Eternal are still left unanswered. Hell, I think the DLC creates more questions than it answers them. What happened in between 2016 and Eternal? What happened to Samur? How did the UAC have the gate to hell this entire time on Earth? Who is the mysterious voice screaming no, and taking us almost 6 months to learn that it isn't Devoth from a typo? Like, at this point, it feels like there wasn't a roadmap for any of this. They just threw in stuff as they went along to extend the story as much as they can for the DLC, which I find causes more confusion with the lack of explanation. For a DLC very story-orientated, it felt like the weakest part of the game. Of course, you could excuse it with, oh, it's a Doom game, story doesn't matter. And that may be true, but for a game that tries to expand and explain the lore, it does poorly with that. It should have been kept simple like it is in Doom 3, for example. Mad scientist discovers hell and unleashes it like how Bowser kidnaps the princess. For a game so gameplay focused, the story should be kept simplistic and it'll have its moments where it shines through the gameplay for the player. I just hope that for the future Doom games, id Software will have a roadmap and lay out a story before them that makes sense if they want to make another game so lore focused. Or just drop the story-based Doom style and go back to how 2016 did it. Explain a few things, yet leaving everything with a mysterious factor that makes the player ponder what that means, and want them to learn more from the codex entries. In part 2, we got a ton of new enemies added to the game. In the first DLC, we only got 2, the Spirit and the Bloodmaker. Both unique demons, where one possesses a demon into an unstoppable machine and can only be killed Ghostbuster style.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
And the other can stun you and wipe out all your health within an instant, but could be killed with a headshot. Even recently got nerfed. It takes longer for it to attack when it drops its shield. Those two return in part 2 along with a bunch of other demons that are mostly reskins, but with a few unique attributes. The Armored Baron is the one that stands out to me the most. You can rupture its armor with anything, and then expose the Baron to kill it with ease. Or you can simply wait until its little ball sack flashes and destroy it along with its armor. It does regenerate, so you have to act and kill it quickly. The Screecher, which is by far my favorite addition to the game, buffs any demons nearby if killed. It's just a normal fodder demon that's all purple-like, meaning anything can set it off. It forces you to not be careless with your shots. No more sticky bombing the floor everywhere. No more PB rocket on anything that moves. Even a precision bolt headshot next to them can set them off. And after that, oh buddy, kiss your ass goodbye. The demons become brutal and quick. Ice bombs don't affect them either. If you set one off, you gotta wait about 15 seconds until the effects wear off from the demons. It pushes you to round up the demons somewhere safe so you can kill them with no problem. Or if it's a tight spot, you gotta be precise and selective with your shots. My only issue with the Screechers is that they're heavily underutilized. You don't really see them as often in the second DLC apart from World Spear and Amora. The Chain Gunners also make a return, but if I gotta be honest with you, they don't add much value to the game. I feel as if these guys are simply a nod to Doom 2 and are just tossed in with the rest of the demons. I'm thankful they aren't hit scanners, however, they can be easily killed. A simple shield dash can expose them no problem. Hell, even a rocket landing right next to them can easily wipe them out. I like the incentive to work around their indestructible shield, but I feel like they're just another one of those training cones on a football field. Stone Imps are another demon Hugo mentioned before Part 2 released during his live streams. These imps are a little tougher, spin like Sonic, and bash into the player. They drop shotgun shells when killed, and are weak to the full auto mod, so it's best to kill them. Oh. It's kind of funny how they nudge you into utilizing the full auto on them, whereas you could just bash them with a shield and get shotgun shells plus health without using any ammo. Hell, you can chainsaw them for 1 pip of fuel. They even dedicate an entire arena to the full auto, which is right before the final boss fight. Kind of strange to put it there. And you can just bypass the spawns by shooting a BFG. And then we move along to a demon I have the most gripes, if not the biggest, stinkiest of grudges I hold against it. The Cursed Prowler is a good concept executed poorly. You come across it first in Reclaimed Earth, and it gives this poisonous, swampy look to it which feels rather fitting for the environment. The catch is, if they hit you, you'll be cursed, meaning you'll take damage over time, cannot dash, and the only way to reverse the curse is to kill the Cursed Prowler, which can only be killed by a blood punch. That's my issue right there. Shoot at him with rockets, stickies, nope. That does nothing to him. And I mean 0 damage to them. You can only kill them with a blood punch. So basically, you have limited movement, the Prowler teleports away from you, and you gotta chase it. If you don't have a blood punch, then you gotta get a few glory kills. It doesn't work. This feels like a gimmicky enemy tossed into a hat full of demons, where if you get hit, you're better off being dead at this point. Like, I love the cursed idea. I think it's so cool to have the Prowler curse you and then teleport away from you. It's great. But to be limited to just one specific attack with a huge nerf of movement, it doesn't work. If they were to allow the player to dash and kill the Prowler with anything, then it would work well. As punishment for letting the Cursed Prowler curse you, it could have a 25% damage resistance from the player when cursed, so a simple blister shot won't put them into a glory kill state. But my god, this isn't enjoyable to fight against. Nor is it fair. Boiling down to the new demons, I personally think reskins are actually cool and unique. The same enemy, same animations, except different properties. Think about it in the sense of Smash Bros. Ultimate's Echo Fighters. If you were to look at Simon and Richter Belmont, they're both Echo Fighters that have some similarities, but a few differences like their down special, for example. Or hell, how about Marth's sword dealing more damage if you hit another opponent with the tip of the sword, and Lucina dealing equal damage with her sword no matter what part hits the opponent? Small, yet not drastic changes with its properties. Of course, we all want new and fresh demons, but could you imagine fighting one demon one way, and then fighting a reskin of that same demon in a different way? Just like the Imp, instead of a simple sticky bomb, the full auto is your go-to weapon for them. And it doesn't have to be heavy or fodder demons that get reskins. It could apply to something like the Marauder. Could you imagine fighting against, let's say, a punished Marauder that is super defensive? It keeps its distance and spawns wolves that explode when they either die or get near you, causing devastating damage. And you gotta shoot the Marauder's shield until it explodes, stunning him for a bit. This is what I mean. Same demons, but different properties and strategies that'll make them feel new. I feel like this DLC takes a step in the right direction in terms of enemy variety, and I do hope id Software considers reusing that idea in future Doom titles. Oh yeah, and the 2016 Hell Troopers make a comeback and die from smelling your shield. It's a no-brainer that when speculated, the next weapon would replace the Crucible as it's no longer present in Part 1. And here comes the tool that single-handedly makes the DLC so much easier. When upgraded, it's devastatingly powerful. If you flame belch an enemy and hit them with a hammer, they'll drop extra armor. Frozen enemies can drop more health, and on top of that, drop tons of ammo. The best way to utilize the hammer not only for resources, but to stun enemies to add extra damage to them. Using them on a marauder can actually extend their faltered state to the point where you can kill them in one go easily and efficiently. No longer having to use nades and full auto. It's definitely a ton of fun to use, but at times it feels like it makes things a little too easy. The hammer acts like a blood punch where you can only recharge it from glory kills. However, even destroying weak points can recharge the hammer. It takes 2 glory kills, or destroying 2 weak points to recharge the hammer. You could glory kill a demon, destroy a weak point, and have a fully charged hammer, or shoot stickies at a mank, destroy both of its guns, and get the hammer back pretty quickly. And that's the issue, how quickly you can recharge the hammer. I think just 2 glory kills and 2 weak points makes it a bit too easy. Maybe if it were to cost 4 weak points or glory kills for a hammer recharge, then it could be better, or just limiting it to just glory kills. You could destroy 2 weak points and finish the rest with glory kills that'll give you a hammer recharge. Since this is a blood punch-like weapon in terms of recharges, for the amount of resources you get, 2 glory kills or 2 weak points makes it too easy to acquire a recharge. And I genuinely dislike this little audio feature here. This Looney Tunes-like stunned sound effect with the stars over the demons' heads. I don't really agree with this. It feels really out of place and goofy-like to have in a Doom game. I also dislike how this is added to the Marauder too if you falter him. I personally think that this is out of place, and like I mentioned, it's goofy. I will say that I'm glad that this is a resource-based weapon. That's something I was speculating about when we first heard about the existence of a new weapon. I would have preferred if the Unmaker got that treatment and that the hammer just stuns the demons and makes them more vulnerable to damage. But it's implemented well. It's just too easy to recharge and can gather a little too much of resources that could use some tweaking. I think we can all agree when I say this. id Software can make some gorgeous levels, environments that tell a story or have a theme surrounding it. Doom Eternal is no stranger to going outside the whole cyber and demon looks of things, with Urdak providing a holy yet alien-like feel to its levels. Or even World Spear looking at a spear. Reclaimed Earth has a bunch of graffiti made by survivors on Earth, cheering the player on to finish the fight. And I'll be honest with you, each time I came across one of them, there's a different message shown on them that gives me chills. Kinda felt like a dopamine Easter egg hunt searching for more of them. Imora, I have some mixed feelings about. I mean, you gotta admit, the skybox with the giants fighting at maximum render quality is insane to not have the performance tank at all. Following the Dark Lord into hell, fighting our way through the hordes of demons, I'd imagine all that would take place in a gory, nightmarish-looking hell like Necroval, but instead we got Urdak structures with a splash of red spread everywhere. To be invading hell, breaking through the walls, and seeing a bunch of demons defending all this felt odd to me. And again, this is where Doom and Hell sort of splits apart, to the point where this is all fantasy-like. None of this really shouts demon to me, or what you would picture hell as. It doesn't look or feel right with the tone of the base game, and it's disappointing for me. But of course, I can't forget to mention the combat arenas and how much I am not disappointed in them. One of my favorites has to be Reclaimed Earth's arenas. I felt as if they were so well put together, giving me Quake feels. It actually reminded me a ton about Part 1's arenas, and how compact yet intricate each arena was. Multiple paths you could take, flanking routes, jump pads, and monkey bars. Each one felt very fun to fight in, especially the Gore Nest levels, which brought back 2016 vibes to me, starting a fight by destroying a Gore Nest. And despite everything within this DLC, the escalated Gore Nests are my absolutely most favorite feature in this game. I love the difficulty it brings within these arenas, which is pretty refreshing because of how easy most of the other arenas are within this DLC. And I'll get into that in a second. This is how the arenas shine the brightest. Instead of doing a few optional timed encounters and getting a skin from them, you receive a hammer upgrade for completing a normal Gore Nest encounter, and then a Slayer skin from the escalated encounter. Funny enough, if you actually complete a level on Nightmare difficulty, you'll unlock a gold skin for 2 of your weapons. If you complete all 4 levels on Nightmare, you'll get 8 gold skins from it, and completing this DLC on Nightmare isn't all that hard. Hell, Ultra Nightmare is much easier than Part 1 is, and let me explain to you why. If you've played through Part 1 before it got changed, you should know how challenging its encounters were. In the Atlantica facility, you're put in tight spaces with heavy demons, as if the game pinned you against a wall as you fought 2 cybermancubuses in a small room with hit scanner soldiers, which I'm so sad they changed that room. Instead of replacing the demons, they just outright removed them. They advertised the DLC as a challenging expansion, testing the player's skills in Doom Eternal with everything unlocked. And I will say that the opening of Tag 1 was crafted super well, showcasing the level of difficulty to the player by throwing heavies right off the bat. In Part 2, we got fodders in a few heavies. The Screecher only shows up in about 3 arenas and is never seen again. And the majority of World Spear's encounters are nothing but a bunch of imps and a few heavies thrown together. There are some arenas that are pretty difficult, but only a few like the Gore Nest arena. I really like the first level's combat encounters, like the purple goo fountain with the Screecher and Mank is my favorite, until you realize you can walk around in the fog and outstack its damage. Or the small enclosed toxic space with the Screecher and the Hell Knight. Those are my favorite types of arenas, and it feels like we don't get any more of those later on. But within these arenas, we finally get meat hook platforming. These little objects in the sky you can attach your meat hook to, and it sends you up in the air either for transversal purposes or to get the upper hand against the demons. I genuinely love the addition of them in arenas where I can fly up and rain rockets from above, and the best part about it is you don't have to wait for your meat hook to recharge. You can gain some height and then immediately hook onto another demon if you want, like getting cornered and escaping to reposition yourself. At times I wish these engagements were a bit more difficult so that me just simply shooting sticky bombs on the ground didn't work all the time. And the music just, let me just say, God bless you, David and Andrew, for the work you put into this DLC, bringing the sweet and spicy heat of heavy metal into Doom yet again, where I find myself banging my head to the beat. Like, seriously, you guys seem to always amaze me with these tracks you've made. Like, they make my workout so much fun. Let me buy you a beer. A good old moose head with that weedy taste, and have a side of poutine with it. And I absolutely love some of the music done for each level, and while I do like some of the heavy fighting music, other tracks have been poorly compressed where it peaks hard but everything maintains the same audio level, where you can't clearly pinpoint what you're hearing. Like the Amora intro is a good example of this. And I thought we could leave this all behind after the official OST was dropped with badly compressed songs like that. I just hope that if they do release another Doom vinyl for Eternal, cause I would absolutely love one, that all the songs are crisp and clear to hear. Hell, I mean, I like it to be fixed in the game as well, but you know, if the OST is released online, physically and digitally, I'm not an audiophile, but I definitely wouldn't want to listen to a compressed version of the OST. Can you please release the OST already? I'm fucking begging you, dude. So this is what the DLC has been leading up to. Putting an end to Hell's invasion on Earth and in heaven once and for all. You've resurrected the Dark Lord, told to meet him in Amora, and now it's time. The final fight. What you've been fighting to reach, and now it's a Marauder fight. Oh, I have a ton of issues with this boss fight. The design of this fight is just terrible. A flat circled arena, much like the Gladiator, has a shield and summons dogs. It's just a glorified Marauder. Might as well have me shoot him in the air and then fight a Marauder instead of this. This isn't unique, and neither is this a fair fight. This boss is so inconsistent with his green flash attacks too. And get this, the tip tells you to get close, but not too close. But if you get too close, he'll do the green flash attacks more frequently. Also to mention how if you fail to dodge his attack, he gets health back from you. And I'll be honest, I actually enjoy that type of punishment. But if you shoot him as he's preparing to swing without the green flash, he gets health back from that. Like, what? I think it's even more ridiculous that it's just another stoplight demon, and at this point this isn't unique or fun anymore, especially if it's a copy and pasted marauder with a few things added. This isn't what a final boss should be. A final boss should not only work well, but be the final test for the player. That's what bosses are, a test of what you've learned through the game, to see if you perfected a certain skill within the game, and it all comes down to that final boss where you're put to the test with everything. Whether it's parries, timed attacks, item consumption, quick time events, resource management, weak points. There's none of that. None of the new demons either. Just use the hammer to stun the Dark Lord who is you, but hides in a mech suit and doesn't fight like the Doom guy. I mean, he's so poorly designed that you can basically beat the first phase without moving. He'll just circle and strafe all around you. You're telling me you're hyping up this fight against the Dark Lord, the root of the Doomslayer's suffering, and this is the boss fight. The only challenging aspect of it is how RNG based he is with his attacks, and how he can't be consistent. Have the player destroy his nade launchers as a weak point, blood punch his armor off, meat hook platforming to get around on his shield if he's charging up an attack. Like, the possibilities are endless. I hate the Samurai fight for some of its gimmicks during the final phase, but at least that fight made the player utilize everything they were taught leading up to that point. Doom Eternal is all about multitasking with enemies, spacing out your ammo pools, resource management, on the move to avoid damage. But the Dark Lord is more of waiting until he's ready to get hit. You can look at Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance and how the final boss fight makes you utilize everything. From fighting a Metal Gear to actually fighting someone who can ruin your day if they land a hit on you, slicing buildings, parries, and with a shit ton of health. Again, this is the final test. This is not a test, and especially being the Dark Lord, the root of evil, and the invasion, it's a poorly done fight, and I'm disappointed this is what the gameplay ends on. I just feel that this DLC is good. Not terrible, not great, but a good DLC. For a game that pushes the story to the player, it's confusing. There are plot holes scattered everywhere that not even the codex entries can explain well. The new demon reskins are a great design choice with one that is flawed. The meat hook platforming feels super nice, and unfortunate that it's only in the second DLC. The hammer is a little too overpowered with its resources you can get back from it and recharges. More questions are made than ones that are answered, too fantasy based, and the boss fight feels like a generic enemy encounter buttered up in a flat circular arena. Of course, there are some good within this DLC that I think worked well. It's unfortunate that the difficulty had to be lowered down since only 6% of the player base actually completed the first DLC. I just think it should have went down the 2016 route and kept everything vague and mysterious and let the fans piece together what happened. Rewriting stuff such as the mysterious voice during the Conmaker's death, Samuel's character feels like they just added things as they were making the DLC. Not planned. No roadmap to explain what's happening without making your brain hurt. I still think you can find enjoyment out of this DLC. Otherwise, I'm leaving this review up to you to decide what you think about this. The lore, the gameplay, the music, the new weapon. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you enjoy this video and Doom related content, consider subscribing. Just because I dislike something doesn't mean I don't want the game to grow anymore. I'm only pointing out these flaws so they don't happen again, and to make the next entry much more enjoyable and less confusing. Thanks for watching this little review of mine. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep slaying.